Alrighty. Hi. Hi, my name is Rachel, and this is my girl Kiki. And today we're going to talk a little bit about how to stand up for yourself. Now, this can be used in any interpersonal relationship that you have, whether it's romantic, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether it's workplace, etc. These are just some tools that have helped me, and I hope can help you too. So to start, I'm in my jammies. Kiki's awful comfy. We would love if you would get comfy, maybe grab a sweet treat or something warm to drink, and let's talk. So the first tool to use is making a list. And now, before I lose you at the very first one, the point of having lists is so that you're able to look back on things and be like, oh, I'm not making things up, whether it's for good or ill. I wrote it down even. More lists. Okay. Document the good, the bad, and the ugly. The date, time, setting, what was said or what happened, and how it affected you. For example, if something happened today, January 9th, I would write January 9th, 2026. I write the time. I'd write the setting, whether it was in a specific environment with a person, whether it was over a digital means of communication, etc. And then I would write just what was said or what happened. I do recommend writing it in like the most factual way you can, sort of removing the emotion from it, even though I know that's hard. Because then after that, we're going to talk about how it affected you. It's really helpful to write, like, did this affect you physically, emotionally? Were you in distress? Did it impact your ability to do daily things or accomplish things at work? You, a reasonable person, have now been prevented from being able to do that. Let me just say, mental distress is a hindrance to being able to do your work. Like, your stomach shouldn't have to be in knots. You shouldn't be throwing up if you're distressed about going to work or you're distressed about the environment. And I know that I come from an arts background, but I've now worked in a variety of circumstances that are traditional and not traditional. And I just gotta say, it does not matter the industry that you're in. If the environment itself is causing you distress, it's important that you write it down because that's not normal. Time out. That's not okay. All right. I also do recommend documenting your wins, documenting what went well, and what you did like about the circumstance or the interaction. If you want, like if this is a dynamic in which you notice more bad than good, it could behoove you to also write down the good. But the thing is, like, we tend to remember the bad more than we do the good, especially when it comes to ourselves. So, writing down your wins and good things people have said about you and your work and things that make you feel good and happy and accomplished and fulfilled, that is also really important to note too. And we'll come back to that a bit more when it pertains to like the culmination of our accomplishments in just a bit. The second one I'd like to talk with you about is communicating boundaries. And I understand that that may strike a chord for some as being like a pop culture term or being overused. But the thing is, whenever a boundary is violated, it's because a need or a want has not been met. And we as humans, and as furry friends, she moved away. That's okay. We have wants and needs, and that's okay. That's just how we're built. And coming from a religious environment, we're often taught to deny those wants and those needs in favor of putting others above ourselves to an extreme. And also just like a lot of self-deprecation. It reminds me of abnegation in the Divergent series. I was really into that series when it came out, to the extent of like not looking at yourself in the mirror and like denial of self to an extreme. That's not healthy. Our wants and our needs and our desires have been put in us because we have things called feelings and feelings aren't wrong. Our nervous system isn't a wrong thing to have, and our desires are so cool because that's kind of like innately who we are as a person, you know, the things that make us us, what we like, what we don't like. That's not wrong. Anyway, I'm on my soapbox a little bit, but with communicating boundaries, here's a template for how to do that. X happened. It made me feel Y, or it impacted me in Y way. In the future, I would like to see Z happen. Or in the future, how can we accomplish Z together? Or could you please do or not do Z? All of these state what happened, how it affected you, and to the extent that it affected you that you feel comfortable sharing, and what you would like to see happen or change in the future. And some of these options take on a collaborative approach. Some of these options are more definitive of don't do that. All valid. Another thing that I'm learning in therapy is that it takes time for folks to learn new things and to learn new things with boundaries. And so you have to decide for yourself at what point are you not gonna take it anymore? Like, what amount of it happening to you, you stating your boundary, maybe they say that things will change and then things don't change, and then you reiterate it again and they say things will change and then things don't change, and then you reiterate it again. Like, how many times do you want to go through that? Or if you don't at all, that is also some information. And on that note, I think it's really important to have that list, going back to the first point, because whenever you do state that something is really bothering you or harming you, and you've shared that with an individual, and whether they've received it graciously or not, and you've shared how you want things to go in the future, first of all, that's very brave of you. Second, that shows that you care about the person and the relationship, I would say, because you're actively trying to make things better. And lastly, the list helps you because words don't always match actions. And that's kind of a really big part of my journey in standing up for myself. It can be maybe you're in an environment where the words are really beautiful and they sound really convincing, and you feel so much empathy for this person and you really want it to happen, but you have to consistently watch their actions. And the list can help give you some more evidence as you make informed decisions for your life moving forward. Next, I'd like to talk about knowing your worth. So, the list of good things and accomplishments that we talked about earlier, this is a really powerful tool for being able to stand up for yourself. For me, something that has helped me is writing out like all of my accomplishments. And beyond that, all of the just things I've done, whether it's a job, whether it's a specific task in a job, whether it's something in my daily life that I've accomplished for myself, or maybe it's a new skill that I've learned, maybe it's something that I did way back in high school. Like, all of it adds up because you, as a human, you've got all of these parts to your life, and you're not just this one specific circumstance, particularly if it's a harmful circumstance you're in. Also, if it's an environment in which you aren't, let's say your word is not taken or taken strongly, you can be your own best advocate and you can be a good supporter to yourself. And having this list of good things that is positive feedback and positive things that you know that you feel proud of can go a really long way to be like, oh, actually, I'm not what they say. This is what I am. And this is the kind of life I want, or the life I don't want. If you look at the list and you're like, I'm not happy with this, that's some more information. We can work with that, which leads me to my next point. Consider making a game plan. Oh, Kiki left. That's okay. If you could change anything about your circumstance, what would it be? It could be anything. I've heard it said before, like, oh, if you could wave a magic wand. Perfect. So now you've got that in mind. Or maybe you don't. Maybe there's some options kind of floating around that will come up as you think on it throughout the next day or so. That's fine. As you think of stuff that you're like, oh, that's an option, or oh, that's something that I might like to do, write it down. I love lists. So another option, after you've written it down, is looking at the pros and cons. What is good about this option? What is not so good about this option? If it has more good than not so good, maybe that's something we take into consideration. If it has more consequences than it does pros, then maybe that's not for you right now. Or maybe that's not for me right now. I don't know. Once you have it established, this is something I'm interested in, here are a lot of pros to it, now we can start taking more actionable steps and we can set goals for ourselves. And we can do it in small chunks. For example, here's the SMART method. And the SMART method is a way of condensing your goals into smaller bite-sized chunks. Here it is again. Because goals can feel really overwhelming whenever they're huge and lofty. Let's say, for example, if I wanted to go to Australia and I wanted to do a work study program. That's really cool. First, I've got to write that down or just like have it in my mind. And next I'll look at the pros and cons. Okay, so some pros would be I would learn a lot and I would engage with more cultures than I've been exposed to now. And I would get to be in the sunshine because I've been in the snow for so long. And some consequences would be that's a big trip. And I would need to make sure that I have the ability to, is Kiki gonna go with me? Is Kiki gonna stay here? A consequence might be a really long plane ride with my beloved cat, you know? And that's valid too. It's not the end of the world, it's just something that I need to consider. And so once I have a game plan of, all right, so this is something that I know can happen, because even though maybe I have some cons, there are ways to figure out how to support that. Now, by the way, this is not an actual goal that I have in my head. I think it's really cool. I'd be open to it, but this is just for video purposes. Anyway, with these goals and having set it into bite-sized chunks, I want you to know that it's ultimately your decision. Okay, this is just a potential tool. This is not something that I will feel disappointed in you for doing or not doing. It's totally your choice. This just gives you more information to help you make decisions. And my last point is know your rights. Whenever you're in a challenging environment, particularly interpersonal, between people, it can be that you know you're not being treated how a person should be, or you're not being treated how you want to be in this circumstance based on whatever wants, needs, desires you may have. It's important to know what is okay and what is not okay. And that's where knowing your rights comes into play. So it depends on where you're at, on what your local, state, and federal laws are regarding how people should operate. It also depends on the climate around you as to whether those things are honored or not. However, I do believe in there being ethics and moral decisions in how people should be treated. And we all have our responsibilities to ourselves and to one another. If folks try to put you down, even though you know what's right, as in you know you're struggling for XYZ reasons, and they try to convince you that it's your fault or that they don't believe you, or if there is a difference in power dynamic, especially if there's a difference in power dynamic, that is helpful to know. That's some more information for yourself, because if you're confused, that is also an answer. Things should be clear. Things should feel good. They should not be painful. They should not be confusing. They should not be so hard, such an unreasonable way. Anyway, thank you so much for listening and for coming to this like pajama chat time. I want you to know that you're not alone. You're gonna be okay. We got this. You got this. I'm rooting for you. Take care.